Oh, yes.
Welcome back once again, everyone.
Hi.
I'm back with my youngest son to bring you guys a new review for Transformers War for Cybertron Earthrise Voyager class Snapdragon. Snapdragon is number 21 in the Earthrise line. And he's eating an apple. You guys need to know that. So Snapdragon's been one of the more sought-after Voyagers for this new line because he completes the duo of himself and Eight-Face, who was released in the previous toy line, Siege. For those unfamiliar with the character, he's a classic Generation 1 character who was part of a duo called the Horrorcons, and they were triple-changing headmasters with one beast form, one vehicle form, and then of course a robot form. And their little headmaster component would form the head of both the robot and the beast. Now in their War for Cybertron incarnations, that gimmick's been reimagined a little bit, where instead of just becoming the beast mode heads, they just become kind of part of the beast mode heads. And that's to kind of make their heads a little more proportional and just make them fit within the universal Titan Master system that was introduced in Titan's Return. So if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at Snapdragon's packaging. Then we'll open them up, we'll see the instructions, we'll look at the map piece that he comes with as an Earthrise toy, and then we'll see Snapdragon himself in all three of his modes. Of course, I couldn't do this review without doing a whole bunch of group shots along with Eight-Face. And then at the end of the video, I will give my final thoughts. So Snapdragon, he comes in your typical Voyager class packaging for Earthrise. He's right here front and center in the window, looking very good. Already digging the white plastic on him, looks a lot better than the plastic we used for Eight-Face. We got a stalker back there behind the setup. Here is his character art, and I'm actually surprised because usually with beast mode Transformers, War for Cybertron likes to use their beast mode in the art, but this is actually his robot mode, and I think it looks fantastic. Really, really nice image of the character, and kind of evocative of a Generation 1 character art, though obviously, much better proportions and all that. But I like it. Alright, look on the back here. You can see the renders for his three modes. You got the robot, vehicle, and beast modes. It shows how his Titan Master goes down in the cockpit. My son has taken it upon himself to look at it. But yeah, you can see it takes 14 steps between robot and vehicle, 20 between vehicle and beast. They don't say how many between beast and robot though, and we've lost the package. It has been, it's been kidnapped. All right, and of course on that side panel, you get your usual Earthrise art. Okay, here's our new map piece that we had to cut out from the background. And you got your handy dandy decoder. And there's a planet here, and it is called Biosphera. It's got a little symbol, which I guess is the symbol of the planet. Now, Biosphera may not sound familiar to anyone, and that's because it hasn't appeared in really any fiction prior to this. The only time it's ever been mentioned before is in some Titan's Return marketing material, and as one of like 15 planets. Back then it was spelled with an F instead of a PH, so very little known about this, and apparently the spelling has not been consistent on it. So maybe we'll see more of it during Earthrise in the new Netflix show, which just dropped today, by the way, so go watch it. So interesting, very cool. And now the instructions here, they're done up in your usual Earthrise greenish blue. Got Snapdragon on the front, here's his tech specs. Flip this out, and the first page is his conversion from robot to jet. And it shows you how to store his Titan Master partner inside of the jet, and how that cockpit works. It opens up from each side. And this transformation is jet to his dragon or kaiju mode, whatever it's meant to be. Definitely looks more like Godzilla than a traditional dragon. But there that is. And of course, showing off the whole map feature. Now here's Snapdragon in his monster or dragon mode. And let's see, it looks pretty good overall. He's got a really thick tail, because that's comprised of his legs. So very, very Grimlock-like in the overall transformation scheme. My copy, this base part of the tail, the two halves don't really like to stay together very well. They kind of push apart, and there's not much I can do about that. The legs, though, they work very well. Move up and down, out to the sides, bend in the knees, all that. The arms The shoulders are just a simple swivel there, and then the elbows are on a ball joint. Now, they only like extend this far down. You can't straighten the arms out, but they can bend up a little bit. They can rotate side to side, all that. You got his guns on the back. Then the head articulates very well. The neck can go up and down with quite a bit of range of motion there. And the head itself can move off of the neck, though I think it's meant to kind of stay flush to avoid that gap. Now, what's cool is his lower jaw is the Titan Master. So, can swing up and down by moving the guy's legs. You can see there's like teeth molded in here. And his eyes, some more light on them. So those pinkish reddish eyes, they're actually made from panels that extend off the Titan Master's arms. So that's a really neat touch. I like that. And overall, stays in there pretty well. It's kind of a pain in the butt to plug this guy in when you're first getting used to it, because it's a pretty tight little clip there, but once you get it just right, everything should line up very well. So I really like this. This is a really, really good looking mode for him. You know, he doesn't look too out of proportion. I mean, again, his tail's kind of wide and kind of flat. Oh, you just left? But now you're back. All right, so yeah, overall, I really like this mode. I think it works very, very well. Okay, here's Snapdragon's partner in crime. You got Ape Face in his gorilla mode. And you can see these two color match very, very well. Their purples are, I mean, pretty much spot on. I think Snapdragon's maybe very slightly lighter. The black, it's a bit darker on Snapdragon. His is a little more washed out looking. That might just be the plastic used. That pinkish red coloration, pretty spot on between them. You know, Ape Face doesn't really have much of this greenish blue except on like the cockpit areas. So it's translucent, though works pretty well. The biggest difference between these two is the white used. Now this is one of the biggest things that people criticize the Ape Face toy on. They really did not like this very pearly, very soft looking white plastic used for him. And I can get that. I'm not super crazy about it either. I much prefer the more solid looking, you know, grayish white plastic that they use on Snapdragon. It's not a huge, you know, it's not a deal breaker for me. They look close enough, but I think the Ape Face toy would have been much better served utilizing a color closer to this. Would have looked less cheap. So I definitely get the criticism there. Oh yeah, I also want to point out, I got some more paint spatter on this guy, and I have just been so unlucky with paint spatter lately. It's been on like every toy I've bought. It's usually in a really conspicuous area too, like right on the face. So that bugs me, but again, nothing a little bit of a solution can't get rid of if you want to. Okay, before we really transform this guy, we're gonna go ahead and remove the little Titan Master here. You just pull it out of that clip. Again, it's pretty tight. That's the clip he goes into. And he goes in this way with his arms up so that they can form the eyes. So that's what we got here. And this guy's name is Crunk, which is, you know, kind of funny in modern context, but that was his name back in the 80s. So, you know, Transformers were Crunk before it was cool. And I want to show him off here with Spasma, who's Ape Face's partner. And what's cool about these is that they both reinvent the classic gimmick in different ways. Whereas this guy just becomes like the lower jaw of an established Dragon Mode head. This one, he's actually like a double headmaster. He has two faces, one here, one here. Now this is obviously the, you know, robot face, and this forms the top of the gorilla head, but can also serve as just its own dedicated, you know, face. They give it a little, like a gas mask kind of mouth plate. So he's a two-sided Titan Master. But, you know, they end up being about the same size, roughly, you know, the same dimensions as standard Titan Masters from Titan's Return. Both really just done up with a lot more paint than the Titan's Return toys got. That's one issue they really fell flat on, is that the little robots that form the heads, they tend to be almost completely or completely unpainted a lot of the time, which really just kind of hurt the value of them. It was only through like the Japanese versions or like special edition toys that really had much paint. So glad to see they upped the ante there. And see right here, that's the robot face. And if you're wondering why it's so elongated looking, it's actually because the original toy, this right here, formed the actual dragon head. You know, look like that, and the eyes would be here, and there's the snout. So that's why it's got the elongated head. And then just to keep it accurate to the original design, they just kept it looking that way. But it's cool, gives them kind of a unique look. So I dig that. Now we're gonna do the transformation in jet mode. So first thing you want to do, go ahead and remove the guns from the dragon's back there. Set them aside. This little chest panel here opens up. So you're gonna fold the head in and all the way down. Reclose the panel. Right now, I'm gonna unplug this lower panel. Kind of swings right off there, as well as this upper one. You bring the upper panel all the way up here. Just push it against us like so. You take the little dragon arms, fold them all the way up, and then just rotate them back. Just kind of inside here, like so. And that'll get them out of the way. Now you're gonna take this lower panel here, press it down, kind of overlaps this little cockpit area. Let's go ahead, straighten the nose coming back out. Gonna pull this landing gear out. Best way to do is push down this little notch right here, little tab, like so. Now, straighten out these legs. Bring the wings out. Fold the robot, or sorry, the dragon feet in. So you create these like thrusters. And then you just rotate these, plug them in, like so. And then for his weapons, you just attach them to the undersides of his wings. So, in there nice and good. And here it is. This is the jet mode. And I really like this. Looks really good. You know, more of like a spaceship than a jet, but it looks really nice. Still has the same issue with this front section wanting to stay really flush together. Still some slight gappage there. And he does have like the obvious robot fists on the underside, so that's a shame. But overall, it looks really nice. The landing gear lets this thing sit nice and level, which is always good. And I dig it. Now, of course, if you want Krunk, Lil Jon's favorite Titan Master, to sit in this, you know, open up these windshield panels. A little tight, they'll go. What I love is that it's got a painted cockpit on the inside. You see all the little buttons and meters and stuff. I mean, it's really, really well sculpted and well painted in there. So I dig that a lot. All right, so let's take Mr. Krunk, put him in just kind of like regular seated position. Slide him in there like so. You just close everything back up on top. Now he's flying around in it. And I really like this. I like the way it turns out. I think it looks a lot better than 8 Faces jet mode that we'll see here in a moment. And it seems to be pretty popular with others too, so I think they really scored a hit here with this mode. And here's the aforementioned 8 Face, and you can see it's just got really strange proportions compared to Snapdragon's jet mode. And like Snapdragon, it's also more of a spaceship than a jet, but still. Yeah, they work together. This guy's a little squatter looking, but you know, 8 Face is also kind of squatter than Snapdragon in general. And he also can't use like his proper cockpit. You just throw Spasma, this fake one in the back here. So it is what it is. I think that Snapdragon just absolutely wins out in the vehicle mode. Now for the big moment, we're going to go ahead and do the transformation to robot mode. So if you haven't already, remove Krunk from the cockpit. Come on, little buddy. Set aside. Remove the weapons yet again. Go ahead, flip in that landing gear. Alright, so unplug the wings / arms. Lift this panel up. And you're gonna use like little black smaller panels that the arms are attached to. You're gonna rotate them up and out. Kinda move the arms out of the way a bit. These have these long tabs that are gonna slide in like right here against the chest panel for the robot. So make sure you get it all to line up real nicely. Like this and that. Alright, and just go ahead, fold the wings up against like the tail fins, rotate everything around. That reveals the fists. Separate the legs like that. Rotate them that way. Take the nose cone halves and fold them all the way up. They're gonna tab in right here. So just bring them up there. And you flip the feet down like so. Alright, so here's the body. Take old Crunk, fold them up like you do other Titan Masters. This. Go ahead, plug them in right there, base of the neck. All right, now the last thing you want to do is go ahead, take his blasters and put them in his hands. They're pretty tight. Not so tight that I'm worried about damage, but fairly tight fit there. You may see stress marks on the insides of his fists, possibly. Okay, now here is Snapdragon in his robot mode. And I gotta say, it looks great. Kind of generic robot looking, but it's fine. I think if you can get something that has two really good looking alt modes and then turn into a very clean looking robot mode, I'd say that's a success. I mean, not a whole lot in the way of kibble here. You got like the wings on his arms. That's pretty much it for extraneous kibble. Everything else just kind of works into the design of the robot. So I think this looks fantastic. As far as posability, Titan Master is ball jointed like all the rest. You got your hinge and swivel combo for the shoulders. And I always love this when you get the hinge where there's like a piece that goes up inside. So even when you pull it out, there's not like a big gap there. It looks more organic, more natural. It's got a bicep swivel, though if you raise his elbows, it's kind of limited by this piece right here. Obviously has elbows, no wrist swivel unfortunately. It does have a waist swivel that goes all the way around, so that's cool. Universal hips, thigh swivel, single bend knees, and he does have ankle tilt, so that's good. It's funny, his heels, because of the tail transformation, the backs of his feet are actually on hinges too, to facilitate that. So for a clean look, just make sure they're nice and straightened out in the robot mode. And yeah, I think this looks really, really nice. He's very solid, no tolerance issues, nothing too loose or too tight. He just works really, really well for me. Now, of course, here again is 8-Face for the robot mode comparison. And you can see 8-Face and Snapdragon are pretty much the exact same height. 8-Face might be slightly taller in this mode. Again, their colors match up very well, except for maybe the shade of white, but I mean, in a fairly dimly lit room, it's not super noticeable, so I'm not overly worried about it. The purples, the pinks are spot on, the black is close enough. One thing I didn't really point out in their vehicle modes is that 8-Face, being a siege toy, has the token like battle damage paint, which usually ends up looking more like dirt. They didn't go that route with Snapdragon, primarily because, he's an Earthrise toy, and very few of those actually have battle damage on them. So that is one key difference between them. One of them looks like he's seen a lot more action than the other. But to me, it's a really minor detail that doesn't break the unified look that these two have. And they really do have it. They look like part of a duo, part of a team. I really dig it. As far as which robot mode I find more interesting, I think I actually kind of favor Ape-Face in this. He's just got a lot more going on. You know, I like the big shoulders and everything. To me, he seems a little bit more striking. That doesn't mean by any stretch that Snapdragon doesn't look good. Like I said, he's very clean looking, which is impressive for what he has to do. The fact that he has so much less kibble is really a testament to his engineering. But to me, he's just not the most exciting robot to look at. Very generic. But again, not holding that against him. It kind of works. One thing that's kind of cool looking at these as far as what 5mm ports they have, they seem to have the ports in pretty much the same places. He doesn't have any on the back of his legs, but most don't anyway. Just a facet of his transformation. They got him on the back and everything. He even has them on his shoulders, despite the fact that it doesn't look like he'd be able to fit them with the fins here. But no, they got them in there. Though I will say most of his 5mm holes are hexagonal in nature, which is interesting, even the ones on his chest there. But they should work just the same. I think, is that holes on his feet too? He does have little 5mm holes kind of running through his feet. So yeah, I think this guy's just kind of the total package. He, in my opinion, is one of the better Voyagers that we've gotten, as far as Earthrise specifically. Not that the Voyagers have been any slouches so far. You know, the Starscream was great, Grapple, he's great, but between his QC issues and the fact that he has a fairly simple transformation, he's just not that impressive to me, which I guess a lot of people feel the same way because, man, our Grapple's just really clogging shelves right now. I've seen Walmarts and Targets that just got like 10 Grapples and nothing else, so it's unfortunate because poor Grapple will probably never get the love he deserves. But yeah, this guy is just now hitting stores. In my area specifically, I got a bunch of reports that he was hitting some Walmarts and Targets around me, which is how I found this guy. So if you're looking for this new character, especially if you already have Ape-Face and you want his buddy to go with him, I'd recommend picking it up. Especially if you can get it at Walmart, because their Voyagers are like $26 right now, so save a few dollars. But yeah, I think this guy is a great purchase for anybody, just as a Transformer himself. He does so much. All three of his modes look fantastic. And that's really hard to say with triple changers, but he pulls it off phenomenally well. One of the best triple changing toys I've seen in a long time. But naturally, that is just my take on Snapdragon. Now I want to know what you all think of him. Am I overhyping him? Is he more flawed than I realize? Or do you think this review is pretty much right on the money with him? Is there anything you would have seen done differently as far as his transformation, his headmaster gimmick? Would you prefer if they kept the original version of that, even if it gave him maybe a massive head that doesn't really work with other Titan Masters? I can't wait to hear your guys' feedback in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. And thank you for joining me for my first ever look at the character of Snapdragon. And with all that said, I will see you next time.